On the basalt plains of Kherson, victory never came without blood. The war banners of the Dominions still smoldered where they had fallen, their bioluminescent sigils fading under a copper sky. Sergeant Elias Ward stood among the wreckage, armor scorched, visor cracked, the taste of ash heavy in his mouth. Around him, alien soldiers, tall, scaled, chitin-armored, watched in a silence that felt heavier than artillery fire. He was the last human left standing on a world the galaxy labeled a death world, and by the laws of the Varelian Concord, that made him something rare. A champion. Elias had come to Kherson as part of a human expeditionary force, mercenaries officially, hired to turn the tide against the Dominion's advance. Humans were known across the spiral arm for one thing, surviving where others did not. The Varelians, a proud matriarchal species, respected strength above all else, and when Elias led a countercharge through toxic rain and gravity storms that crushed tanks into slag, the tide of the war broke. The Dominion retreated. Kherson was saved. In the aftermath, the Varelian Queen Matriarch invoked the ancient right of claim. The champion, she announced, would receive a reward worthy of legend, territory, fleets, or even a royal bond. A hush spread through the grand hall as Elias was escorted inside. The chamber was carved from living crystal, light refracting through it like frozen lightning. Along the terraces stood the queen's daughters, the princesses of Varelia. They were magnificent in the way apex predators are magnificent, tall, powerful, adorned in ceremonial armor that shimmered with iridescent hues. Each princess watched Elias with calculating eyes, already measuring how a human champion might elevate her standing. All except one. At the far end of the terrace stood Princess Aelith. She was smaller than the others, her crest duller, her armor plain. Her posture was careful, restrained, as though she had learned long ago not to draw attention. Whispers followed her like a shadow, least favored, soft-hearted, unsuited for rule. Aelith met Elias's gaze only briefly before lowering her eyes. The Queen Matriarch rose, her presence filling the hall. "Champion Elias Ward of Earth," she intoned, voice resonant as thunder beneath stone. "By right of victory, you may choose your reward." Murmurs rippled. Everyone expected the same thing, a political union with the strongest princess, a bond that would bind humanity and Varelia in ironclad alliance. Elias felt the weight of 1,000 expectations pressing down on him. He thought of the battlefield, of wounded Varelian soldiers he had dragged from the acid fog while stronger warriors advanced without looking back, of a lone medic who had stayed with him under fire, whispering calm instructions as she sealed a rupture in his suit. He thought of Aelith. Elias stepped forward. "I choose Princess Aelith." The hall exploded into noise. The queen's crest flared in shock. The favored princesses hissed in disbelief, some in barely concealed outrage. Aelith froze, her eyes widening as if she had misheard. "Explain," the queen demanded, her tone edged with danger. Elias removed his helmet, letting the hall see the scars etched across his human face. "On the plains of Kherson, I saw who stood when others fell back. I saw who valued lives over glory. If I must choose, I choose honor, not spectacle." Silence fell again, deeper this time. Aelith stepped forward, voice trembling yet clear. Mother, I do not seek a bond to elevate myself. I would release the champion from. No, Elias said gently, meeting her eyes. This is my choice. The queen studied them both for a long moment. Then slowly she inclined her head. So be it. Let the bond be recognized. What followed was not the triumph Elias had expected, but exile by degrees. Salith was granted a frontier holding, a neglected system near Deathworld space, far from court politics. The other princesses turned their backs, dismissing her as a curiosity who had ensnared a reckless human. They left Varelia together aboard a modest cruiser, bound for a system no one cared to fight over. The months that followed forged something stronger than ceremony. The frontier world, Kelt 9, was brutal. Storms that peeled metal, predators that hunted by sound, and a biosphere that tried daily to kill its settlers. Elias and Salith worked side by side, training defenses, negotiating with wary clans, and rebuilding after each disaster. Elias learned that Salith's restraint hid a fierce intellect. She listened before acting, adapted instead of dominating. When raiders struck, she coordinated evacuations rather than chasing personal glory. When crops failed, she traded favors instead of demanding tribute. Slowly, the system stabilized, and word spread. Merchants began choosing Kelt 9 as a safe passage. Refugees arrived, drawn by stories of a princess who ruled without cruelty and a human soldier who bled alongside his people. The frontier became a haven, then a hub. Back on Varelia, the queen matriarch received reports she could not ignore. The least favored princess was succeeding where others had failed. The turning point came when the Dominion returned, not with a fleet, but with an assassination strike aimed at Salith. On the night alarm screamed through the settlement, Elias found himself once again standing between death and something worth protecting. He fought through corridors choked with smoke, gravity fluctuating wildly, every instinct screaming. When the last attacker fell, Elias collapsed, a plasma wound burning through his side. Salith knelt beside him, her hands slick with his blood. "Do not die," she whispered, a rawness in her voice that cut deeper than any blade. "Not for my sake." Elias smiled weakly. Too stubborn for that. He lived. The attempt galvanized the system. Clans unified. Defense pacts formed. When the Dominion probed again, they found a wall of ships, human and alien, standing together. The Dominion withdrew, for good. Years later, the Queen Matriarch visited Kelt 9 in person. She walked the thriving cities, saw children of mixed species laughing under artificial skies, and finally stood before Salith and Elias. "You chose differently than tradition demanded," the queen said, her voice softer now. "And in doing so, you revealed our blindness." She named Salith High Matriarch of the Outer Systems, a position of unprecedented influence. The favored princesses watched in silence as the least among them rose highest. On the balcony overlooking their world, Elias and Salith stood together, the wind carrying the scent of rain and steel. "I never wanted to be chosen," Salith said quietly. "I only wanted to matter." Elias took her hand, human fingers interlaced with alien talons, a bond forged in war and tested in peace. "You mattered long before I ever knew your name." In the legends that followed, bards would tell the story differently. They would speak of a human warrior who rejected power and won it anyway, of a princess overlooked by her own kind who reshaped an empire. But on Celt 9, among those who lived because of their choices, the truth was simpler. On a death world, a soldier chose compassion over prestige, and the galaxy was changed forever.